Who are you? What's your role and where do you work?
My name is Julia Blaze. I'm a product management lead and I work at Chronosphere.
What are 3 Kubernetes emerging tools that you're keeping an eye on?
I'm looking into Perseus, I think, for data visualization on top of open source monitoring tools like Prometheus that are designed for Kubernetes. I think it's great to have more open source visualization tools. I think it's good for Grafana to have a competitor. It makes everyone a little bit better in the space. FluentBit, I don't know, we were watching the keynotes at Observability Day. FluentBit 3.2 I think has a lot of really important performance enhancements and efficiencies, so I'm definitely keeping an eye on that. And then I have to say OTel, I know that it's been around for a while, but I feel like it keeps maturing, right? And we just keep seeing more and more customers demand open telemetry for metrics and traces, and I just think that's going to continue to grow.
One of our guests, Matt, shared that most teams store logs and metrics in Kubernetes without considering the implications of the data they collect. Consequently, they end up paying a hefty price for data that is not actually used. What's your advice on ingesting, storing, and querying metrics in Kubernetes?
Absolutely. We talked to so many customers about this, and I think my biggest pieces of advice is only keep the data that you need and do that in a data-driven way. You can look at all the data you collect and you can see where people are using it. You can see if it's in a monitor, in a dashboard, if people are writing individual queries, if your API is calling that data all the time. And you can also see what's never getting called. When we talk to customers, sometimes they end up cutting their data by up to 60% when they actually work with us because we give them some of these tools and insights. But you can do this even without Chronosphere. Like, you can go in there today and see what people are never accessing and drop it. Not only does that save you a ton of cost, but it also saves people a ton of time debugging because their developers aren't kind of digging through a ton of dashboards and line charts and entropy where people have tried and failed to capture what they needed. If you just get rid of all that data, they can get the insights they need much faster. So saves cost and saves time if you can really analyze what people are not using and just get rid of it.
Troubleshooting tips and the learning path. Our guest, Alex, spent several weeks troubleshooting an issue with Kubernetes, which required the team to explore the kernel code. He stressed the importance of learning while troubleshooting. Is there any practical advice that you've learned during the years regarding debugging?
Yes. So what I learned over and over is that you cannot rely on your experts to be able to do these kinds of debugging tasks. So our services are complex, right? Kubernetes introduces microservices, it introduces rapid rates of change, infrastructure scaling up and down, user volume is scaling up and down. Things change quickly, and what we see happen is developers, even as things are changing more fast or quickly and getting more complicated, developers are like specialized in one endpoint or one service. So they end up calling in, Jane or Ben or whoever their hero is, and it's actually a term that I've heard customers use is we call the hero. And I say, oh, who's that? And I bet any of your listeners can probably think of who the hero is in their organization as I say this, right? But what happens is then those heroes burn out. They're on every incident call. It's exhausting. They're not spending their time using their expertise like building fantastic code and great features for your customers. So what you really need is to take those heroes, look at their workflows, and make those something documented, repeatable, or even embedded in your product so that any person, a brand new developer, a contractor, someone who doesn't know your system at all, can follow those same workflows and do the work of the hero so that you all can go back to building great code and fun new features and not actually spend a lot of your time troubleshooting.
Alerts, visualization, monitoring, and alerting. Our guest, Miguel, discussed how visualizations can help consume and make sense of vast amounts of data, aiding in better decision-making and system management. What's your thought process for collecting, alerting, and visualizing data on a Kubernetes cluster?
I think that you absolutely have to have all of that information relevant to your system in a single place. You have to have the right context and you have to have it at the right time. Any visualization tool that says, I can only look at this type of data over here, and then you have to make like 3 hops and apply a bunch of new filters and go back to find that specific slice in time to see this other data over here, is going to lead you into failure. Or at least it's going to lead you into spending a lot more time trying to understand your system and fine-tune your performance or debug an incident. So you need visualization tools that give you the right set of data in the right place and that preserve your context as you do go deeper into that data. I don't want to have to write a new PromQL query every time I want to investigate a specific nuance of the feature that I'm looking into today, right? I need easy to iterate on visualizations. I need to be able to go deep, and I need visuals that help me do that fast and performantly on the high scale of my Kubernetes data. Otherwise, I'm going to get frustrated because really I don't want to spend time in the data visuals. I want to build code. The visuals are there to help me, and they should be powerful enough to do that for me today.
Kubernetes turned 10 years old this year. What should we expect in the next 10 years to come?
I think really Kubernetes introduced us to this world where your infrastructure can be dynamic and it can scale with your load. What I see, of course, I work in an observability space. I see monitoring and observability that needs to be as dynamic as your infrastructure. So you need to be able to scale up and down what you've instrumented and what you captured on demand when you need it in order to save costs and only get the insights you need at the right time for you.
What's next for you?
Well, we have just launched a big product, actually, differential diagnosis, and that's been kind of my baby. My team and I have been working on it very intensely with all of our customers for the last several months. Excited to see it go live, excited to get that feedback. But honestly, my husband and I have a 3-week trip to South America planned. I've never been, so I'm looking forward to taking a little bit of a break before getting back in there to help customers solve problems.
How can people get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Julia Blaze.